Champions Cup Sunday games. The bookies got them pretty much right. Home teams for the win. They didn't quite get the margin on the Leicester Racing game. Leicester put up a bit more fight than what the bookies expected, but the other ones, yeah, pretty comfortable results for the home teams. So, yeah, I've seen the last one in full. That was Racing against Leicester, because that was on at about kind of 4 in the morning over here, so I got up to watch that before work. The previous two were on at 2 in the morning, which is kind of too late to stay up for and too early to get up for. So I've only seen the highlights, so about 10 minutes of each of those games. But how do we read of all the stats, saw all the scoring plays and whatnot? So yeah, it's been a pretty good look. I'll start with the first one. Saracens over Cardiff. As I said, I think the prediction was 20 plus points. And yeah, it pretty much came true. Tries in this one: Wigglesworth, 2 to Earl, 2 to Maitland, Spencer and Judge. For the Blues, it was Scully, Morgan and Robinson. Kind of a game of two halves, this one, from what I have seen of it. Because believe it or not, Cardiff were actually in the lead at half-time. It seems hard to believe when you see that full-time scoreline, but it was 15-13 at half-time to Cardiff. They scored those 2 tries in the first half. I mean, Wigglesworth got the scoring off early after Barrett's initial little break, which was a good try. But, I mean, if you want to see a good try, you're not going to see many better than Matthew Morgan. Don't know if I'm on a close enough relationship with him to call him Matt, because I don't know him at all. But, yeah, like he got the ball from a kick and just ran through the entire team to go and score a try. It was, I mean, the commentator said it as well. If you thought Colby's try was good the other day, this try was probably even better. He just went through amazingly. Like, it was almost like schoolboy rugby, how easily he went through. So coaches on the Saracen side won't be happy with how that was defended, but what an elusive runner. That was absolute magic and class. So yeah, that put Cardiff out in front. Sides exchanged penalties a wee bit, but the second half, yeah, that's when Saracens really brought the pain over to the Blues. Like, from the 10 minutes of highlights I've seen, the second half, I think, contained one highlight for Cardiff, and it was the final try, and possibly the yellow card, if you can consider that a highlight as well. But, I mean, Earl showed a bit of power for his first try, which tied it up, and then intercept. Looked like Cardiff were under all kinds of pressure, and it led to the intercept, which Earl pretty helpfully, thankfully, easily read and took. Saracens out in front. Not long later, Robinson gets a yellow card. They, again, didn't show that whole much of it, but I'm assuming it was repeated infringements. You guys who have seen that game can let me know what was the deal behind it. It didn't seem to be kind of like one incident that was like a high shot that deserved a yellow. It seemed like it was repeated infringements from the viewing, but pretty costly, because immediately after a big long loopy pass from a scrum, Maitland goes in, and then 2 minutes later Maitland goes in again, long distance try, good with the line break. So yeah, man, I mean, those minutes, Earl 44, 47 minutes tries, and then Maitland 58 and 60. That's a whole lot of points to be conceding in a pretty short time. Turned the entire game on its head, and there was really no coming back into it from there. The yellow card, 12 points is what it cost Cardiff. So, again, pretty hard to come back from. And they weren't done. I mean, Spencer still got to try and judge the big man. Like, I don't know if he's ever run that many meters in one go. There was about 10. He seemed to be enjoying himself for a big bopper. Got to try. At least for Cardiff's fans, they got to try to kind of close the game out. Not quite enough to get a bonus point. They had a few minutes to give it a crack, but unable to get it done. I will say there did seem to be a pretty good crowd for all these games, actually. First thing I noted when I started watching all of them was good crowd, because there were, for some of the other games this weekend, kind of varying levels of attendance. These 3 games all seem to be really well attended. It doesn't hurt that all these teams the home teams are doing pretty well thus far in the Champions Cup. When you look at the stats on this one, run meters 535 to 338 in favour of Saracens, kind of makes sense given the scoreline. Possession in territory, possession 55-45 to Saracens, territory 60-40, so certainly putting on some pain with the amount of ball they had and where they had it. But then a key kind of like poor area for Cardiff, I suppose, is just turnovers conceded. Despite having less ball, they had 16 turnovers conceded to Saracens 11, and the tackles were not ideal. Saracens tackled at a respectable and healthy 87%, Cardiff 79, which is not atrocious, but if you look at the actual numbers, they missed 34 tackles, which is gonna prove pretty costly. And it seemed to, penalty count wasn't exceptionally high, 10-7. Saracens with 3 more, so not nothing much doing there. But yeah, in terms of the pool, Saracens looking real good. They're going to be hard to stop to kind of romp all the way to the top. By the looks of things, they are 3 wins from 3, 14 points, sitting pretty. Cardiff are in third on 4 points. Glasgow is on 10, so yeah, they're going to have to do some work, old Cardiff, to see how they can kind of close that gap. But it kind of remains to be seen if more than just Saracens will get out of the pool. I guess we will see how things go. Pretty high scoring game though. Yeah, from what I've seen, it was pretty entertaining. The next one, Munster hosted Castres. Another one that you could probably call it a game of two halves, seeing as the first half only had 6 points. Again, I only saw the highlights just now when I got home from work. Interestingly, a couple of guys in the comments with a preview were saying keep an eye out for Chris Farrell. Chris Farrell, he's a monster, he's a beast, he's going to do amazing stuff. But from what I read, they didn't mention it in the highlights, but from what I read, he went off in the warm-up. So that's a real pity. I was looking forward to seeing him. And there was no Joey Carberry either. He, I guess, didn't... I think I read that his was earlier than Farrell's kind of pull out of the game. So Hanrahan had to step up, and he did a pretty decent job from the 10 minutes of the game I've seen. But yeah, 30 points to 5. Tries to Scannell, Stender, and the aforementioned Hanrahan. Laveau for Castres, kind of right towards the death. But yeah, 6-0 at half-time. Good crowd. But yeah, it didn't seem like in the first half highlights that Munster were quite able to just get all the pieces together to score, because there were moments that they showed in the highlights of the first half. Like at one play, they had like an attacking ruck. It looked like it was in the Castres 22, and Murray bamboozled everybody, went back the way that nobody thought he was going to go, but that included Tyke Byrne, who knocked it on. There was a bit of space out that way. They may or may not have been able to create something out of it, but I guess that's the thing, playing alongside that guy. He's so quick that sometimes even his own teammates kind of have trouble keeping up with him. But it was kind of the right idea, and that did seem to pay off later. Like once we got to the second half, this was a scrum that was wheeling, and Murray kind of from nothing got the ball to Scannell for the first try. For Stunder's try, it was Murray's offload again. So yeah, the guy's world class, and he is going to create all kinds of opportunities, seemingly from nothing. A lot of the time he just sees a gap that's only kind of half there and he takes it. He shows more power than he looks to have in a guy his size. And yeah, man, he is just so quick in terms of his mental read on the game. He's a very, very hard guy to contain. And yeah, that shows in the fact that he assisted in 2 of the 3 tries. So really a bamboozling guy. Strength, skill, power, speed. As I said, man, everything all good. And a few of the highlights showed CJ Stander just bulldozing people, which is what we like to see from him. It's kind of what we expect. Par for the course, but it's always fun to see. He was one of the top tackle busters in this game, so that kind of came as no surprise when I read over the stats. Yeah, they did get that final try to Hanrahan, so they kind of 5 minutes to push for the bonus point. Castres had the ball, and you kind of don't blame Munster for going for a wee intercept towards the end, because that would have got them a bonus point if it had paid off, but it didn't. Left them a little bit open, and they did conceded that one last try to Laveau. Didn't really make a difference at the end of the day. So yeah, stats wise, 407 to 140 run meters, so it looks like in that department Munster were kind of all over Castres. Possession and territory 65-35, so again really dominant looking. Tackling 81% to Munster, 75 to Castres. So all the numbers kind of going in in Munster's favour, and the scoreboard reflects that. Interestingly, though, turnovers conceded were 19 apiece. I mean, you compare it to the last game, it was 11 to Saracens, 16 to Cardiff. 19 each is quite a lot. So the conditions didn't look bad, but I did see a couple of times guys were sliding, so you guys will have to let me know if it was quite wet, or if the handling was poor, or if guys were getting, like, how these turnovers were coming about, because that is a high number of turnovers. And the commentators kind of at the end of the game, when I was listening to their wee summary, which was part of the thing that I saw, they kind of mentioned it was a bit disjointed. They used the word scrappy, and yeah, they just seemed just a touch negative on the game, to saying, like, I mean, maybe they expected Munster to get a bonus point, but yeah, like, they were having to choose a man of the match, and they were kind of doing it like it was a chore. So I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen the full game, but the moments that I was lucky enough to see, there were some good ones, but I suppose maybe they're talking more about the first half. As I said, you guys who've seen the game or been to the game can let me know how it actually was. But yeah, if you look at some of the stats for Castres, it doesn't make pretty reading. Like, their guy who had the most run meters was Tulo, the number 8. He had 32 run meters, and that wouldn't even put him in the top 5 of the guys in Munster who got run meters this week. So yeah, it wasn't a big effort from them at all. Hanrahan was man of the match, which is pretty good for a guy who slotted in fairly late in the piece. Murray, 2 try assists, like I said, Stunder with a tackle bust. So there were some good performers there, even if they didn't get the bonus point. In terms of the pool, Munster are on top, sitting pretty again on 11 points. Castres are down in third on 5 points, so Gloucester's between them on 8. So it's still far from done and dusted in that pool. Still plenty of work to be done, but yeah, I guess you'd have to back Munster to kind of keep going from here. But yeah, 3 games to go, anything can happen. Next one. Last one, the one that I actually got up to watch, a wee bit bleary-eyed, but I did it, and yeah, I was treated to a game for the attack coaches, not so much for the defense coaches. I mean, I know the scoreline, like 36 isn't the same as scoring 51, but 36-26, there were a lot of points, especially in the first half. As I said, it was a pretty good crowd in all 3 games, and this one was no exception. I was pretty pleased seeing on camera how well it looked attended. Tuilangi got yellow carded in this game pretty early on. And yeah, sure enough, Racing were able to capitalise on that, so they scored a try. They went out to a 12-0 lead. Oh, I should just go over the try scores really, because there's so many of them. Varakawa, Imov, Zibo, Shuzano, and Klemenchek for Racing. So 5 tries to them, bonus point, and Leicester, Holmes, Kalamafone, Tuilangi, and Thompson. So bonus point, losing effort from them in getting 4 tries. Not able to get a losing bonus point for finishing within 7. But yeah, I think they'll still take the 4 tries for sure, because, I mean, the run meters in this game were just crazy. I mean, you remember I just mentioned, like, Castres had 140? This game, Racing alone had 770 run meters, which Racing's total is more than the entire Munster game. That's just for one team, and then Leicester had 608. So it was a bunch of guys running with the ball. I suppose part of that is that stadium. It's kind of always going to have perfect conditions, great for running rugby, and yeah, you need a team that can play running rugby because the conditions, yeah, they were like that. Possession and territory was kind of more towards Racing, which to be expected, but tackle stats, neither side was above 80. They're both in the kind of mid-70s. So lots of attack, lots of running, not so much on the defense at times, kind of turning down threes at times from each other. Both sides have really slick hands, lots of offloads, really end-to-end stuff. By one point in the game, after about an hour, Nigel Owens, the ref, was looking absolutely exhausted. He went to the TMO, and the commentators kind of had a chuckle about it as well. He was really catching his breath while talking to the TMO, kind of asking him a question, breathe, take a sip of water, breathe, and then ask another question, because, yeah, it was just that much back and forward. Matt Smith had one moment where he had a really sickening hand bend, like he got caught and his hand kind of hit the ground and bent in a way it's not supposed to bend. I hope he's alright, but it looked pretty nasty. Yeah, Tuilangi I thought looked pretty good despite the yellow card. He was able to use his power at times and really put guys under pressure. Ford, that guy didn't give up. Like when they were down by quite a lot, he got an intercept, line break, and then the ball ended up going out. Racing put it out, and then he managed to quickly pick it up because it was out and do a quick line out throw and got the ball in, and then they ended up scoring. So kudos to that guy for a team that at that point were looking pretty beaten. Yeah, man, never gave up. So they did drive through the whole 80, and to be fair, Racing were looking pretty tight at the end, so they did finish the stronger. Seemed to have a bit more energy, but yeah, there was a funny moment when Thompson got a turnover, and he kind of really looked at Nigel Owens like he had his hands in the cookie jar, but it was legal. So it was an entertaining game. Like so many tries, I can hardly remember at this point. I can hardly remember many of them. I just remember that Ford one from the turnover because, yeah, it was a crazy game from 4 till 6 in the morning. I suppose if you're going to get up at 4 in the morning to watch a game, that kind of scoreline is a pretty good one. I was pretty entertained. Interestingly, though, Racing only conceded 2 penalties in the whole game. Leicester had 9, which is a lot more than Racing, but in terms of overall games, my daughter's crying, so she must be pretty upset that Leicester lost. Yeah, it's one of the kind of lower totals amongst all the games this week, so 9 is not too bad. But yeah, where does that leave them with Paul? Racing's on top, 14 points, really looking strong as well. Leicester, 3rd on 6 points, so Ulster's in the middle on 9. Yeah, there's still plenty to come. It's going to be interesting to see the reverse fixtures, for these games, especially Leicester, man. If they can, well, I suppose we'll see how the weather goes in that reverse fixture because, like I said, the stats really show that, it was just such a crazy running game. Russell found heaps of gaps, I should say, for Racing. I've got lots of little notes here. It's a bit of a mess, but Russell's name is everywhere, just going into a gap, offload for Zebo's try. Russell into the gap, looking good. Yeah, I think Josino got man of the match, which was kind of an interesting one, but I guess it was chosen by the French commentators, so he got a try. Can't really complain too much, but yeah, like I said, I haven't seen the first 2 games in full, so you guys can let me know a bit more info if you saw those games. How did you think they went? Same with the 3rd one, even though I've seen it, I'm still keen to hear you guys' thoughts. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the games. How do you think the reverse fixtures will go? And yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.